Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency. On behalf of Aeropodium, I would like to welcome you to the 8th European Corporate Aviation Summit. This event has been organized in the UK, Sweden, and Malta in the past, but this year it will be a virtual event. My name is Panagiotis Panagopoulos. I'm the CEO and founder of Aeropodium. I would just like to introduce the conference and run through a few important points. I hope this event will provide an ideal opportunity to learn about the latest developments and enhance your knowledge about the European corporate aviation market. I would like to thank the American College of Greece for organizing and hosting this important event and for all their support. Furthermore, I am grateful to the speakers of this conference for contributing with their knowledge and expertise. Finally, I would like to thank the sponsors for all their support. I would like to wish you an enjoyable and interesting day. It's my honor, finally, to introduce Dr. Thimios Zacharopoulos, Provost of the American College of Greece. Dr. Zacharopoulos.
Good morning. On behalf of our institution, the American College of Greece, I want to welcome you all to this important summit, obviously under different circumstances, but life goes on. The sharing of knowledge and the production of knowledge goes on, and we're glad to be able to be the host. The American College of Greece, obviously as an educational institution, is in the business of sharing and producing knowledge. We have a history that in 5 years, we will complete our 150th year, starting as a school for girls in Smyrna, Asia Minor, organized and established by American women missionaries in order to educate young women, because we knew then and we know now that in developing societies, the education of young women helps the economy and the society move forward. This is the same type of business we're still today at the American College of Greece. We have evolved, just like transportation and aviation has evolved. And now we have an ACG 150 plan, which aims to help grow Greece, grow the society by producing knowledge, by producing knowledgeable graduates, and by sharing knowledge. This plan, under the umbrella of our Institute for Hellenic Growth and Prosperity, that has various centers of excellence, including, of course, the Center of Excellence for Logistics, Shipping, and Transportation, which is co-organizing this event. And that is the important work that we aim to do from here on out. Greece, after a number of years of economic stagnation, and now, of course, we are all facing COVID-19, we want to set the circumstances to help society move forward. We're glad to be able to do this, starting with this conference, a very important summit. We wish you all the best and have a wonderful conference. And we're looking forward to the knowledge that is produced and shared out of all of the participants. Welcome. Now I'd like to turn it over to the moderator, my colleague, Dr. Triantaflouris.
Thank you, Dr. Zacharopoulos. Thank you for your words of inspiration and for taking us through the history of our institution. Many thanks also to you, Panagiotis, for working together with us in setting up and organizing this very, very important conference. On my end, I would like to say a few words before I introduce our keynote speaker, the Minister of Tourism of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Theocharis. It's incredibly important to note, I think, that aviation is an incredibly powerful driver as far as the economy and economic growth, which spills over to society as well. Today's event has been organized to be able to discuss the specific impact and the specific input of corporate aviation, which is a very distinct field as far as aviation is concerned, to the society, to economic growth, and in the case of Greece, to tourism. We have a distinguished cadre of participants, of speakers from all over Europe, as well as Greece, our country. And I think and I hope that it's going to be a very, very useful and productive day for you. And an academic, a fellow academic, Andreas Papatheodoru. Andreas is a professor at the University of the Aegean. He's a prolific academic researcher. He's an advisor in a lot of organizations relating to air transportation. And Andreas, in his career, has focused very much on the interplay between air transport and tourism, and more specifically in terms of economics. In addition to being a professor at the University of the Aegean, he directs the master's program in strategic management of tourism destinations and hospitality enterprises, and the Laboratory for Tourism Research and Studies. Andrea, thank you for being here this morning, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tryon, for this kind introduction. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Aeropodium and Mr. Panagopoulos for kindly inviting me to participate. As you can see, the title of my presentation is about business aviation and tourism, the way forward. And as has already been discussed by the minister and the previous speakers, aviation and tourism are structurally interdependent. Very few people fly for the sake of flying. Most people fly to go somewhere and do something, and that's related to tourism, whether it's business tourism, whether it's leisure tourism, visiting friends and relatives. And in economics, we talk about the so-called tourism ratio, and just because air transport has a tourism ratio exceeding 90%, that means that its receipts, 90% of its receipts are related to tourism. It's related explicitly to the tourism industry. Now, just to give you some statistics, back in 1980, about 35% of international travelers traveled by air. In 2018, this percentage was 57%. And we can certainly argue that air transport is a major generator of income and also of employment with respect to tourism as well. So the direct employment effect of air transport and tourism is estimated close to 16 million jobs. If we consider all indirect induced and catalytic impacts, then it's almost 37 million jobs and close to $900 billion. That's obviously before the pandemic, and I will come to the pandemic effect later on. As I said, the two sectors are very much characterized by cyclicality, high sensitivity to changes in the economic, social, and political environment. And in terms of better understanding the linkage between the two, we can also refer to route development. And as argued earlier, stakeholder management is very, very important. The idea is to bring airlines, airports, destination managers together in order to ensure that air transport accessibility is improved, and that this can prove to the benefit of tourist development as well. Now, coming more into today's theme, which is about business aviation. Here we have a graph showing the latest countries in the world with the highest number of business aircraft back in 2018. And as you can see, essentially, it's what we call a North American story. The graph is dominated by the United States. Back in 2018, they had more than 21,000 business aircraft, followed by Brazil, Mexico, Canada. If you just add North America, they definitely cast a very, very thick shadow over the other countries. It's certainly of interest to know that we do have some big European countries here as well, including Germany, the UK and France, and China is also gradually emerging as a country where business aviation does play a role. Now, in terms of The breakdown with respect to jets and turboprops, not surprisingly, a great majority of business aviation aircraft are related to jets. That's almost certainly the case in North America and Europe. South America is the only exception, with turboprops seem to be more important. But as I said before, it's predominantly a North American story. And here we see the potential evolution in terms of business aircraft deliveries between 2018 until 2027. We may end up seeing some deferrals as a result of the pandemic, but maybe not. And I will explain why this may not prove the case. And so, as you can see, we do see a number of different operators, aircraft manufacturers in this case, and compared and contrasted to what we see in the big aircraft market, where we essentially have the typical duopoly of Airbus and Boeing. Here, that's not the case. As you probably know, of course, Bombardier got affiliated with Airbus, and there was this kind of agreement between Embraer and Boeing, which eventually didn't go ahead. But in general, we have more manufacturers in this area. So as a result, the bargaining power of aircraft manufacturers might be smaller vis-a-vis business aircraft operators and owners, and that's something that we also need to consider in our discussion. Now, the statistics I presented you with earlier essentially relate to how the world was before COVID-19, and we can definitely argue that the pandemic is a black swan. So in economics, we talk about black swans when we have events that are very unlikely to happen, but on the other hand, they can have devastating and very important effects on the economy. And until a few months ago, we were all talking about some problems related to over-tourism and how we can fit the sustainable development context in the context of over-tourism. And suddenly, since March, we've been talking about zero tourism. So here you can see a picture of Colosseum shot on the 28th of March, just during the very first lockdown. I'm hopeful that we won't end up seeing similar pictures very soon as well. It would be very, very devastating. So what about the impact of COVID-19 on the European business aviation sector? Here use some statistics coming from the EBAA, the Business Aviation Association here in Europe. As you can see, from January to August, we experienced decreases which were close to a third. So France was down about 33%, UK 37%. Germany was faring slightly better, but still down by 25%. Switzerland, Italy, Scandinavia, Spain, and Portugal. Essentially, all countries recorded a decrease between 25, 26 to about 37, 38%. So definitely a reduction, but possibly not as bad as in the case of standard aviation and standard traffic. So that's something that we also need to take into consideration. And now I think it's time to somehow explicitly link business aviation with tourism, because traditionally business aviation has been related to business travel. But as a result of COVID-19, I think we might see some new trends emerging. So people keep talking about social distancing. People keep talking about the idea of exclusivity. So I think it would make good sense to briefly talk also about luxury tourism. And here you can see the countries that topped internal luxury tourism revenue between 2019, that's actual statistics, and also forecast with respect to 2023. So it's quite interesting to note that United States is leading the way, but also China, Germany, other countries follow suit. And so luxury tourism was a big trend before 2019. It might continue despite the recession. And why is that so? Because we do see what we call a number of ultra high net worth individuals. And if you've seen what happens over the last 6 months, we've seen a rapid growth of IT related companies. So we've seen the creation of new millionaires, or if not new billionaires. I'm sure you're familiar with the Ant Group IPO in Hong Kong. So we're talking about fintech. We're talking about investments in technology, which do create people who have a very, very high wealth. Here we can see a picture. We can see a graph showing top industries associated with those very, very rich people who actually own private jets. So finance sector is obviously quite important, followed by real estate, NGOs, oil and gas, business services. And what we've seen as a result of the pandemic is that the fintech sector is becoming more important, technology is becoming more important, oil and gas is becoming less important, but do take into consideration that when we compare the 90% to the 5%, it seems that there might be a further trend for business and corporate aviation to grow. But as I said before, if we are to somehow explicitly relate business aviation and when its relationship with tourism, of course, we need to understand all the different question marks, meaning how long will the pandemic is going to last, whether we're going to see a global recession and for how long, what will be the impact of the different lockdowns and travel restrictions. As the minister told us earlier, confidence is quite important, consumer confidence, whether and when it's going to be restored in terms of the travel, and of course how different airlines and how different airport operators can withstand the current financial adversity. But as I said, what might be of importance here is perhaps to realize that we are in train to experience a paradigm shift. So traditionally, business aviation has been predominantly associated with business-related travel. Now, as we have all noticed, take for example this great summit which takes place online. And so we've very much become accustomed to teleworking, teleconferencing, and virtual minds, meeting incentives, conference exhibitions. That's a sector that has nearly collapsed in terms of on-site, and just because companies and the world has to go on, everything is turning virtually. And I think many of the events will stay virtual. And we would obviously all like to go back to travel and meet in person, but we do need to consider the high cost of that, especially in a post-COVID world associated with perhaps a recessionary environment. So virtual mice, teleworking, teleconferencing, I think they're here to stay. For us, on the other hand, I think luxury tourism are quite important, not necessarily because the total income is going to grow, but do bear in mind that we've seen the creation of new millionaires, new billionaires, people who are into startups for technology. And what COVID-19 has brought into the foreground is the importance of social distancing and exclusivity. So perhaps what we might see is that some luxury leisure traffic might come to the rescue of business aviation. Not saying that it's going to dominate business aviation, but increasingly luxury leisure traffic is going to play a more important role, I think. And that brings also into the foreground the very idea of sustainability, because traditionally we've been talking about revenue management models in terms of airlines, in terms of airports. So the idea now is to develop a proper destination management model. And I think that if destinations are interested more into having fewer people with a higher per capita expenditure just because they cannot sustain overcrowding in a post-COVID-19 world, putting more emphasis into luxury travel might be of essence. And this is how we can properly link destination marketing and management with business aviation. So again, these two can be brought together, and we can see that promoting sustainability at a level of a tourist destination is something not only valid, it's something that should be prioritized, and it's certainly in direct connection to business aviation. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for attending this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andreas. This was fantastic. You were able to show the inextricable link between tourism and air transportation, as well as the importance of corporate aviation in the economy. Thank you so much very much appreciate your input. We will switch gears to an attorney now with records, because the approach is proactive and it's not reactive or punitive, as you described. The second question has to do with tourism, actually. So primarily maybe for Andreas, but whoever else wants to jump in, like the previous question. And by the way, does anybody want to add anything to answering the question about safety, Stavros or Sharon or Andreas?
It's a given. I mean, I can only agree it's a given. That's we don't discuss it. It's a given.
Mhm.
I can only support that.
Great, perfect. So Andreas, you already touched upon your presentation in regards to this question, but perhaps I think it's all about giving more information. How would the relationship of corporate aviation and tourism and leisure, and the tourism and leisure industry, change as the industry evolves and adapts to the new reality in the future?
Well, as I said, the key to remember here is the importance of luxury tourism, and increasingly luxury tourism will become more dependent on luxury travel as well, including the use of private jets, either owned by ultra-rich people or by people who have a fractional ownership or who are in a position to somehow charter a private jet. So I think we have a new market emerging for people interested in leisure travel with a difference, not necessarily because they want to burn money. In the past, we were talking about the Veblen effect, the effect of conspicuous consumption. I think what's becoming of increasing importance is social distancing, exclusivity, and the very fact that if you can fly using a private jet, at least in your mindset, you feel more, you feel safer. So again, that's something that can prove of importance in the future.
So do you foresee less commoditization of air travel in general in the future as well, given this prediction as far as corporate aviation?
Brian, that's a very interesting question, because since the Second World War, we've been talking about the emergence of democratization of tourism and the mass tourism phenomenon. So possibly these may put at risk. At the same time, we need to remember that all this quarantine does have a big psychological impact on people. If they're denied leisure travel in the future, that might have very negative socioeconomic repercussions. So I think that some mass tourism is still to stay, of course, with extra observance of safety and hygiene protocols. But at the same time, I think we will see an increase in luxury leisure travel, increasingly using corporate jets as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you all. I really appreciate you for your very substantive presentations, inputs in regards to this first panel, which has now concluded. And we will go ahead and switch gears and move to the second panel, a little more specific in regards to its focus, trading business aircraft in Europe